everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Saturday. I'm here with Jill Whelan, and I'll tell you who Jill is in a second. But Jill, in our area, not all the days are beautiful like they are out where you're at. But today is a beautiful day. So beautiful Saturday. If you guys are tuning in, it's a special Saturday edition of a little conversation we're going to have with my new friend, Jill Whelan. And Jill, she played on The Love Boat. You remember the show, The Love Boat? She was Captain Steubing's daughter on The Love Boat. And you were 11 when you were doing that show, right, Jill?
I was 11 years old.
I'm guessing you and I are about the same age because I was probably about 11 when I would watch the show. So, I think we're probably just doing some math. I'm guessing we're about the same. Now, we had a chance to interview Ted Lang, who of course played. Put a picture up. This is Jill. Oh, so cute. Now,
oh my God.
Jill,
oh Lord,
Jill, I can't remember. Back in the day, I think they added you. Like you weren't. Were you on season 1? They added you, right? You weren't on season 1.
No, they added me. I was doing another show before that, and then they brought me on as a regular afterwards. Yeah.
So, what season did you come in on?
End of season 2.
End of season 2. Okay, so because we interviewed Ted Lang, who played Isaac the bartender, of course, on The Love Boat a couple months ago. And the thing that was interesting that Ted said was that on a Saturday night, 100 million people. Oh, there's Ted, and then there's Jill, and then there's
my buddy,
and there's Gopher Fred Grandy in the background as well. Yeah. But Ted said on a Saturday night, 100 million people would watch The Love Boat, and in a country of probably about 250 million back then, I'm guessing 50% of the country on a Saturday night would sit and watch this show. So, like I tell people nowadays, you look at like a Netflix or something like that, you can be a hit show with 1 million. Imagine having 100 million people watching a show. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about that. But we had 3 channels. We didn't even have Fox yet.
I know. That's how old we are.
I know. We barely had Pong.
Yeah, I know. We had the Pong. We had the Commodore 64 computer if you were lucky. Now you were 11. You were 11 years old. So, and you came in, like you said, at the end of season 2. And was Love Boat already a big hit? Did you know how big the show was and how fortunate you were to actually be becoming a part of it?
Well, I knew it was a hit because I watched it. I was a fan. But, I was 11 years old to understand and it was my 3rd or 4th job. So it's not like I understood what people do in our industry to audition and work. So I think I knew I was fortunate, but I don't think I understand really how fortunate and how rare it was.
And the other thing too, Jill, for those who didn't watch A Love Boat, which, like I said, there were only a few back then, but the show would take huge stars, Oscar winners, and some of the biggest legends of Hollywood, and they would be on the show. But it would be towards the end of their careers. Most of the time, it wasn't in their prime. So a lot of these times, these huge stars that shaped Hollywood were you aware of how big they were? Because you were just 11. Like most of them had their heydays probably before you were even born. Did you realize how influential and how big these stars were when they would come on?
I did, in that I was a huge old movie buff. So some of my favorite movies were the Thin Man series. Gone with the Wind was my favorite movie. And when Olivia de Havilland did the show, I was over the moon. It was like having royalty.
There's Charo. Charo, we love
Charo. I just spoke with her 2 days ago.
Did you really?
Yes, she's lovely. Cool. She's a really good friend of mine. Her family is amazing. I've obviously known them all my life, pretty much.
Right.
And they have a Great Pyrenees dog, and we just got a Pyrenees puppy the day before Easter. So we were chatting about that and sharing pictures, and so she's awesome.
It sounds like that would be a breed that maybe has some special instructions with it. Is that why you were talking to her about it? Is that kind of dog? Because it sounds fancy.
They, first of all, if I were to show you a picture, you'd wonder why I haven't bought a saddle. They
Oh, gee.
get to be 190 pounds.
Oh my God.
They, I know, they're from the Great Pyrenees mountain range in between Spain and France, and I think Italy too. And they they are instinctually, they watch sheep, and they're herders and things like that. They're a working breed, and instinctually they know what to do. So they've never been bred to there it is. Here they are. They're not really, they to train them with verbal commands, they're used to doing it through instinct
Uh-huh.
rather than somebody telling them what to do. So they are a bit of a stubborn breed, but I will tell you that this, I know this dog looks huge and menacing, but they're a gentle giant. They couldn't be sweeter. They're the most darling, lovely breed. And so we're just thrilled.
That sounds like a dog that you would search out, like you'd maybe seen it somewhere, or it's not a dog that you would like just pick up at the local store. So what turned you on? How did you get introduced to this breed of dog?
So I've been trying to. We have a beautiful. I've only had rescue dogs my entire life, and so we have a beautiful rescue, and she is 14, and I wanted to get her a puppy so that maybe it would help her stay young, because she's pretty spry. I've got pictures of her all over on Instagram. Everybody loves her pictures. She's pretty funny. And I don't know what she is. She's a cross between a golden retriever, I think, and maybe a border collie, but she's like the perfect dog. And so I've been trying to get my husband to let us adopt another dog, and we've been talking about it for years. And it was Thanksgiving. Because of COVID, there really wasn't a Macy's Day Parade, but there was the dog show. And so he loves animals as well. So we're watching the dog show. It's noon. He's already got a glass of red wine in his hand. I'm making Thanksgiving. I'm, getting the turkey in the oven or whatever it was I was doing. And I look up and I see this vision in white on the big TV over the fireplace. And I stopped what I was doing, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God, what is that? That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my whole life." He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. He goes, "That's my favorite dog."
No way.
Yes. And we'd been calling around the shelters in Los Angeles. We called some shelters to see if they had any. Nobody had, because of COVID. The shelters, thank God, have been empty, at least in Los Angeles. So all of a sudden he looks at me and he's like, "I'm going to look up a breeder." And all of a sudden, before I knew it, he'd found a breeder here in California and had put down a deposit on this baby. And so that's how we got our little boy Buddy.
Wow, what a great story. It's funny, you watch that dog show. I can't remember the dude that does, but his voice is like so mesmerizing. Like,
oh, it's the guy from Seinfeld who did Jay Peterman.
Yes, and I think
Hurley.
John Hurley, yes. I could just, anything that he does, I could just watch and just listen to him narrate it, and it's just it's just so good.
I know, he's such a nice guy. I did I think it was like a regalia. Is that what you call it? In the water?
Yeah, a boat regalia.
I think,
yes.
Yeah, so I did a boat regalia in San Diego. And John Hurley was there. And when at the time, my 26-year-old was a toddler, and he carried my son on his shoulders the entire weekend. It was just really sweet. He's a lovely guy.
Oh, and I think if there's anyone that's going to be involved in a regalia, I would see him, like, he'd be the perfect character for it. He just seems like a regalia kind of guy.
He does. A regalia and a Purina kind of guy.
Yes, absolutely. We're talking to Jill Whelan from the Love Boat. She played Captain Stubing's daughter. Now, Jill, when are you still in show business?
I am.
And I was telling people the other day, we were talking about a story on our morning show about how Cameron Diaz had retired from acting, and she moved out of the LA area about 6 years ago. And someone on the show was being snarky, and they said, "Well, she probably couldn't get a job. That's why." And I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "Right now, to me, and you can tell me if I'm right because you've been in show business for half a century almost." But I told people this is the golden age of content creation. There's no decent actor in Hollywood at all that's not working, because there's just so much content. $1 billion in Netflix and $1 billion AT&T and ABC. Everyone's throwing $1 billion towards content. I would say that this is probably the golden age of content creation. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, you say that, and I co-wrote and co-produced and co-starred in a pilot loosely based about my life called "Take It from the Top," and we had Ted Lange as our director, and we co-star with a gal named Leah Mangum, who's my writing partner, and her husband is also in the show. His name's Jonathan Mangum, and Jonathan is on Let's Make a Deal, and he's also on oh my God, why all of a sudden I'm having a senior moment and I can't think of the improv show.
Whose Line?
You know, the one with Wayne Brady?
Yeah, whose line?
God. So he on Whose Line Is It Anyway with Wayne Brady. So co-stars on Let's Make It Deal. Carolyn Hannon plays my mother, who is genius, who's on Hospital. We have Connor Trenier from Star Trek. So a lot of fun people. And it's on right now. It's on YouTube. It's called, if you Google "Take It from the Top," Jill Whelan, you can see our shows. We did one full episode, and then COVID hit. So then every other episode from then on is shot with the actors, by the actors, at their own homes. Wow. And then they would send me the footage, and my son, who's an editor by profession, would edit it together to try to make, because some people live in New Jersey, some people are up in Canada. So, but it's really fun. And so that's my latest project that I'm working on. Besides, I'm the spokesperson for Princess Cruises. I'm their celebrations ambassador.
Oh, cool.
So that's super fun. Yeah. And I do a lot of episodics and
I'm sorry, we have a little bit of a bad connection, but I got everything you said. When you talk about Princess Cruises, I would think that now would be a perfect time for. I remember they had a Fantasy Island reboot. I don't think that they've done a Love Boat reboot, and I think this would be a perfect time with everyone sitting at home. They'd love to see people traveling on a boat and celebrities, and I think this would be a perfect time for a Love Boat reboot.
Well, my production company, if you can hear me, my production company, we are kind of with that idea. It can't be what it was, because first of all, to produce a show like the way they produced the original Love Boat, it would be so many millions of dollars. And to get, if we wanted to get the let's say, okay, so we had, gosh, let me think. What was a big star that we had on that? Mickey Rooney or Douglas Fairbanks Jr. or we had Cary Grant on. So to pay for those, who would it be today? It would be George Clooney. It would be, it would be
Brad Pitt, Angelina,
Kevin Costner. I mean, they're not at all. We couldn't get them. So we're touring around the idea of doing the show in a different way, but a way that would honor the original. And so we'll see what happens.
We're cutting out a little bit. I don't know. We maybe have a little bit of a bad connection. Why don't we? I'm going to try to log.
Should I
log out and then come back in? Try that. All right,
okay.
We're going to wait on Jill. Jill's going to try to log out and come back in and see, because I don't know if it's on. I don't know if it's on Jill's end or on my end or what. But anyway, welcome to the show. It's a Saturday show. We're having conversation with Jill Whelan. She is from the Love Boat. She played Captain Stubing's daughter. She was 11 years old when she was on the show. It was the biggest show in the entire country at the time. Saturday nights, 70 million, 100 million people would watch that thing. So we're going to wait for Jill to come back in. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging in there. Appreciate it. It's just a fun Saturday thing. We had a chance to catch her. Sometimes the celebrities, they don't want to get up at 3 a.m. LA time, so Saturdays work well for me to get them on. Okay, here she is. Let's see. We'll pop her back in. Let's see. Jill, you there?
I'm a coming.
There you go. You there? Okay, you sound good. You sound good. Okay, all right. So, it's much better. So I heard a little bit about why about a Love Boat reboot, and then but your part was choppy. So tell me again. I kind of heard it, but I didn't. I know we talked about it'd be hard to get the big stars, but go ahead.
So it would be really, really hard to get those stars. I mean, if it was George Clooney or Kevin Costner, they're just not going to do well. They would if we could afford to pay them what their quote is, but that wouldn't happen. So my production company has been working on some ideas that would honor the original show, but it would be done a little bit differently. So, and it wouldn't be a series that it would be, it would be maybe a 10 arc show, just like a fun thing. And then, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I didn't know, and it's something that Ted had told us at the time, was that you guys actually, we figured it was on a sound stage and you just shot some pickups or something out at sea. But he said you guys were actually out at sea, like on location, filming the show.
We went 6 weeks a year, and towards the end, it was these amazing trips, and it was 6 weeks. In the beginning, it might have been 3 days in Acapulco, or it might have been a week in Alaska, but then we started venturing out and covering all the continents and things like that, which was just incredible.
What is the what is your best memory from the show that it was something that stands out that you can think of in your time on the Love Boat?
Oh my gosh, there's just so many. I think the musical episodes were some of our favorite, where we got to dance with Ethel Merman and Ginger Rogers and Cab Calloway and so on and so forth. That was pretty incredible. We had a whole on that was pretty incredible. Amazing. I mean, there are just so many incredible experiences and places that when I was in high school, I was taking an Asian civilization history course, reading my history book about the Great Wall of China while I was sitting on the Great Wall of China. Other experiences, for example, when we were in Egypt, we were sitting in a bar in the hotel, and these servicemen came up to us and said, "Hey, our base is very close, and we have some beautiful Arabian horses. If you guys are interested, we'd love to take you horseback riding around the Sphinx and the pyramids at sunset tonight." And we're like, yes, please. So just these unbelievable experiences.
Yeah, I mean, just amazing. And so can you go on a cruise anytime you want, since you're a spokesperson? Like, you can just jump on a cruise whenever?
I can actually, and I do several a year, as a matter of fact, which is super fun. My kids were just saying to me today, "When is this going to be over? We want to take a cruise." So we're ready.
How do you not
bag packed? We're just waiting for the all clear.
I was gonna say, how do you not weigh like? There's a little delay. I apologize, but how do you not weigh like 400 pounds then?
Oh, that's it. Well, usually on a diet, and I work out. My husband and I are on a diet right now that we absolutely hate. And in 1 week, he lost 10 pounds. I lost 4, which is such a guy thing. So, we just constantly have to work.
It drives my wife crazy. We on a diet, and but I lost 9 pounds this week. She goes, "I lost 2," and we're doing the exact same thing. I hate you so much.
Yep. 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 That's where we are.
So when do you? I'm sure there's some innovations that have come when it comes to Hollywood. Like you said, it's like shooting people in their basically their homes or doing their parts and having to put them together. Are there innovations that you think that have hit over the last year and a half that are great? Like you're like this is cool. You know, it was forced upon us, but it was cool. Do you think is anything that comes to mind that you thought was really neat that's happened over the COVID time?
Over the COVID time, I would just say, God, all of the for me, I think probably the best is auditions. We don't have to go to an actual place to audition. We just do it from the comfort of our own home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been pretty to just be able to go in. We have a whole little studio thing built up in a spare room with a green screen and everything else, and all my son's editing equipment,
Uh-huh.
and it makes it just great. You don't have to deal with traffic. You don't have to worry about parking, about all the other stuff part about it.
And I'm guessing too that from an actor's point of view, that's even better because number one, you're in a familiar area to do this now, and you're not having to see your competition like just sitting out in a waiting room. Like I'm guessing that this is probably a benefit, a big benefit to actors.
I think it is a big benefit. I think the only negative is that sometimes when you're in a room with a casting director, they'll say, "I love that, but try it this way." So that's the only thing that you don't get, unless I actually have done some auditions where it's been a Zoom call. So I basically audition sitting on my couch with my, like we are talking, and the casting person can then give some, you know, feedback
Mhm.
or what have you, which that's my favorite kind of audition. I don't have to take off my pajamas. I can just sit on my
Right?
couch. And when I'm done with the interview, I turn the TV back on.
Jill, what about okay, let's say because you got in at 11 years old, or you love about 11 years old. You said you had a couple other gigs before that, so
Yes.
9, 10, whenever you started. Let's say I have a kid that likes to act, that goes to some classes or something out here in Ohio. What is the first thing you would tell them if they're interested in pursuing this? Are the first steps you would tell a parent or a child that might want to pursue the Hollywood thing?
Well, the first thing I would say is what are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you want to be famous? Because if you want to be famous, then go do TikTok or something like that. But if you really, really, really want an actor and you want to uh, study that craft and master that craft, then you got to get into classes. And it has to be just as important as somebody who's really into sports, whether it be travel, soccer, or whatever. It's a big commitment to learn the craft. And I would say theater is the best thing to do. And I would tell them to leave school and do theater, do local theater. That's the best place to learn. That's like, I compare theater for actors like ballet is to dancers. It's the classical form, it's the first form, and it's the form where you learn the most.
With
It's super important. But I would also, if it's something that you're really interested in and you really want to do, go don't make sure when you go to college you do business courses. You have to learn business side of the business. It's show business, and there's too many charlatans out here, and then all of a sudden you find yourself like so many stories we've all
um,
heard
you're
and
still
seen, have a proclivity to understand it or to want to do so. I would definitely say those are my tips. And for the parents, I would never don't force your kids to do it. Don't unless they are it's for me, it was all I wanted to do, and I was obsessed with it, and there was no saying no to me for my parents. But if you're the parent and you have a kid who's like, yeah, that could be fun, I'd like to be a model, just keep them in school until so crazy for it that there's no other option.
And did you have a good experience growing up as a child actor? Because we hear the stories. Obviously, you kind of brought them up. Did you have a good experience overall? Because there's a girl locally that's a friend of mine. And she did the Disney thing, uh, but she writes in Teen Vogue, or they did an interview with her in Teen Vogue not too long ago, and she said that it was ruthless. It was tough on her, and they were. It was not an easy road like you would think. Allison Stoner, I don't know if you know her, but she's from Toledo, and she was on Cheaper by a Dozen with she was in the Cheaper by a Dozen movies with Steve Martin, and then she was at Disney Kids on Camp Rock and all those shows, and Phineas and Ferb and that. But she writes now that it was a rough step up movies. It was a rough time for her.
It was an easy business, and it is ruthless. Happened for me, and I happened to have a really great mom who was incredibly clear-eyed as to what her role was. It's whole world, her mother thing out. It's really dicey when their parents get romanced by the power and the money that the business affords a very small, their job to be the child, and that can be their only job. That's where it gets dicey for kids, because if you're on a show, or you have some giving you whatever you ask for, never saying no. And for a kid, when they're still developing, that's not a good environment. Kids need to have boundaries. They need to understand. They need to learn. They need to be humble. And sometimes in this business, it just doesn't promote that at all, unless you have some very, very strategic and specific guardrails. But it is absolutely ruthless. You constantly have to worry about your weight. You constantly have to worry about how you look, what you say, you're wearing, where you've been. It's there's a lot. It's not just showing up and being glamorous and having makeup. Press can be very judgmental, along with producers. So you have to be have a really good sense of yourself. Otherwise, you can get lost.
And also, and you're cutting out, Jill. I don't know if there's a way that you can adjust the feed on your end. I'm not even sure. I'm not very technical, but you're cutting out a little bit, and it's such an amazing stuff that I'm hearing, and I'm only getting bits and pieces. But but what I was going to say was about that.
Wait, can I
let's see if you're getting better.
Is it any?
Let's see if you're getting better. Hi.
There. See.
Still cutting out.
I'm walking around. This is where I usually do all my interviews. So.
Oh, it's like the old Cribs show.
Anything better?
It
is. All right.
Well, I think you're better. I think you're better.
Really? Okay. Then I'll stand here. I'm standing in the corner. I'm
In
standing
the corner. Yeah, I think you're good. But we had a conversation like this on the show. Or no, it was after the Britney. You watched that Britney. I don't know if you watched that Britney Spears documentary, but after that. Okay, we had a conversation on the air after that about how it's hard as a parent to stand up to like a director or just Hollywood. It's hard as a parent coming from a small town, bringing your kid, and even though your only job is to protect your child, but when they put the pressure on you, it's like, oh really? Well, I've got 6,000 kids outside, so you're going to listen to what I say, or else we'll just go on to the next kid. It's like, how as a parent, if this is what your kid loves to do, how as a parent is it you stand up to power? It's just such a tough. It's got to be such a tough dynamic, I would imagine.
It is, but I will tell you, I was on the set of my first series. My mother and I were just sort of walking around on the sound stage, and one of the producers came up to my mother very sweetly and said, "Listen, Carol, if there's anybody on this set that Jill doesn't like, just let us know and we'll have them fired." That was day one. My mother looked at her and laughed. "You ever give my daughter this kind of power again, we will be out of here before the ink on that contract is dried." You have to, you as the parent, you have to be willing to risk it all, because in the end, at the end of the day, shows don't last forever, but your kids are going to outlast fully all of the shows that they do. And at some point, they're going to be standing there holding a bag. Why aren't people, all of a sudden my show's over? Why am I not the greatest thing anymore? Why can't people answer my calls? You know what I mean? So it's really a tedious, and the parents have to put their kids first and be willing to lose it all for the sake of their kids' psyche.
Wow. Well,
and the other side of that too is that the producers, you teach people to treat you.
Jill, do you have any kids in acting?
I don't. None of them wanted anything to do with it. My eldest son is a writer. My second eldest works in sports, and my 20-year-old, mine by birth, is an editor, as well as a sometime cameraman, sometime direct, but he really loved editing, is his passion. And then my 15-year-old has decided at this point, he may change his mind tomorrow, we don't know, that he wants to be in video game development.
Now, we talked about kids, and we talked about how you have to be, as a parent, you have to be able to protect your child and do that. Now, I know at a point, the money that you were making, I read this in IMDb, half the shit is on there is wrong, but it said about how you were your money was put into a trust for you, and then at some point your first husband had some bad business dealings, and you ended up losing. You had to make it back. You didn't just have this glorious life, this glorious Hollywood life that everyone thinks, right?
Yeah. No, between my ex-husband, who squandered $1 million, and my ex-business manager, who squandered a lot, it left me with pretty much nothing. I had to start back again and not do it.
Did you know, going to your ex-husband, did you know that was going on, or did you find out afterwards, or you were blinded by love, or how, what happened?
I was, first of all, blinded by love. I figured I would trust him to work. And he's passed now, we just found out, but a couple of months ago, but my son hasn't seen him since he was 1 year old. So not a good guy by a therapist. And he went through $1 million, and I didn't really know it until I saw the pattern starting with him. And I just need to get money for this. So I just need to do money for this deal. And so basically what he was doing in our marriage, I can't speak for what was happening after our marriage, but he would get people to invest and then live off the money that they were investing, and then find new investors. So that was kind of my experience in that situation. But, I'll tell you right now, I would go through that whole experience again, all of the terror and the verbal abuse and all of that stuff again, to get my son, because my son is the gift that I am just so blessed to have, this beautiful man now in my life, my 26-year-old.
Well, so, and it's great to look.
Everybody's got a cross to bear.
Right. You can look at things and be, and just doubt yourself for every move you made. But you have such a great outlook. It's like you have to take the positive piece and focus on that, because if you focus on that negative, then it can eat you alive. You have to focus on the positive part, and you have. Mm. Jill, you
keep living. You have
go ahead. All right.
I'm
here. Well, you are an absolute delight. And for you to take some time out of your Saturday afternoon to spend a half hour with us, I can't believe it's been 40 minutes actually, is amazing. You are such a sweet spirit. And they can find again your current project on YouTube. What was it again? How do we look it up?
It's called Take It from the Top, and then just Google Take It from the Top Jill Whelan, Whelan, and you'll find it. And then I'm on Instagram as well, and on Facebook, just as official Jill Whelan. And there's a lot, I do a lot of cooking preps and craftings that I do, because those are my other passions. So
Jill, you were an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking some time on your Saturday. Good luck to you, and we appreciate you talking to us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for doing it on a Saturday.
I loved it. Thank you, Jill. Jill Whelan, everybody, from The Love Boat. I am so she's such a sweetheart and a great lady. I feel bad that we didn't get to hear all of it. Like the stories where she was just super open and super honest and was telling some amazing stories. And I just wish that we could have heard all of it, but it was really awesome. You guys have a great Saturday. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll see you Monday morning, 6:30. All right. Right now. Come on.